Ryan Weathers looked incredible in his first start off the injured list.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on Twitter at Jeremiah Geiger2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And on today's show, I'm joined by Dave Hunt on the podcast at Miami Marlins UK over on Twitter. Dave, welcome in.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me again, Jeremiah.
Absolutely. And we got a jam-packed episode today. We're going to talk about Ryan Weathers and his return to the big league club, and then kind of take a look at the future, the 2026 rotation and lineup. Give our preseason projections, like way in advance, what we think it's going to look like, and then talk about the expectations for this team moving forward. Let's start though with Ryan Weathers, Dave, because he hadn't pitched since June 7th. He was on the 60-day injured list. He's had a injury-riddled career, to be honest, in terms of just staying on the field, being able to pitch. But last night was a reminder that when Ryan Weathers is healthy, he's as good as any of the other Marlins pitchers in their organization, I believe. His talent is superb. And you saw that with 5 shutout innings against the Nationals.
Yeah, it was good to see him back. And I think sometimes a lot of people forget that Ryan Weathers was a first-round draft pick. The guy clearly was highly rated from an early age. And he showed that last night to come back after the layoff he's had, especially after the last time we saw him, he was getting drilled in the head with a ball in front of everyone. And that wasn't great. And it was so Marlins, wasn't it, that? Of all the things it could be, that was so Marlins. But to have him back, and to have him back in that way, he just looked drilled in from moment one. He looked like he was really in the zone from moment one. And that's what we want from Ryan Weathers. The talent is clearly there. And could this be the start of like the end of the season where he runs into 2026 and really shows us what he's about? Similar to how maybe Eddie Cabrera has this year, suddenly come into his own. Are we going to see a 26 like that for Weathers? But like you say, last night, what a great way to come back. And I think we mentioned no walks. That was a beautiful stat to pick out. And again, no runs allowed. Fantastic.
He hit 99 miles an hour on his four-seam fastball. Like that's to me is a clear indication that he's feeling well. He's completely healthy, and it's going to be an important offseason for him. And I think the organization to try to get him just dialed in physically. So, whether that's putting on some more muscle or just a training regimen so he doesn't have these, I don't want to say fluke injuries, but these injuries that are holding him back, because he hasn't had Tommy John surgery like a lot of other pitchers while he's been in the Marlins organization. I think it was his oblique this last one, or his lat?
Yeah, it was. That's right. Yeah.
So
I think it was oblique.
Yeah, I just got to see him on the field because, like you said, 2026, that's a big season for him. It's almost make or break, where here you go. You have all the talent in the world, former first-round pick. We got to see 28, 29, 30 starts out of you. Put it all together, and we could be looking at, I think Ryan Weathers can be an all-star easily.
Oh, well, if you look at the small sample that we've had this year, and it is a small sample, it's promising. It's really promising. And if you extrapolate that across a season, which is what we're hoping to see, like you say, we've got to be seeing as a minimum 21, 22 starts as a minimum, like you say, ideally a few more. And if you extrapolate what we've seen this season out, I mean, last night reminded me of, I think was it the Padres, where he took the mound earlier in the year, a really similar performance in terms of his confidence. If we can see that on a week-by-week basis from him, I think he could really be sort of that middle of the rotation guy that the Marlins haven't really had consistently now for quite some time.
If you look at like his stuff, what stands out to you the most? Because I'm looking at the breakdown from yesterday, and he threw the fastball and the changeup. The changeup actually paced the way. He threw that 38% of the time. The fastball was right behind that. That changeup's really, really good. It's that high 80s pitch with a lot of bite to it. And then you have that huge drop off in velocity because he throws his fastball so hard. Also, he incorporates that sweeper. I'm starting to notice, well, I've noticed for a while now, but Marlins pitchers, the Marlins organization, they really tend to drive in sweepers with
Yeah.
with starters and relievers throughout the organization. I like that because it gives you just a huge change of pace for a guy that has a fastball, has the changeup, and then he can even throw in the sinker and slider, dial that in a little bit, and then you have that sweeper. So he's got a full arsenal, and I think that's going to carry him through, assuming he stays healthy a long time.
Yeah, we like you say, we need to see the consistency in his fitness. But you're right, the different level of pitch that he's got, the fact that he went straight in with, what was it, 98.9 right at the end with his fastball, that was great for me to see. I wanted to see him unleashing that. And like you say, the more that we're seeing the sweeper coming across the board when it comes to the rotation, I liked what I saw from Ryan Weathers last night when he brought that in, and it was the different sort of like what's the word I'm looking for? The way he utilised the pitches, it was almost like he'd got it planned out in his head quite a way in advance, which you don't always see from pitchers. You can see that they're making their mind up as the game goes on. He almost had the game planned out in advance last night, I felt, and he knew where he was going. And that's why his confidence levels look so high. His control last night was fantastic, which is why we saw no walks. I just felt like straight in his control, he was so locked in. Not locked on, locked in. There you go.
That's perfect right there. I like that. You mentioned something earlier where Weathers can slot in to be that middle of the rotation kind of pitcher. And it got me thinking, where do you think his ceiling is? Because we have Yuri and Thomas White's in the minors, and we look at those guys as like true bona fide aces. Do you think Weathers has the capability to end up being a number 2, or is he more in that number 3, number 4 range? Because in my opinion, I think Weathers has the talent to be that second guy.
I agree. I see his career panning out with him being more of a 3-4 middle order guy, solely because, and I hope I'm wrong with this, when you see somebody have this level of injuries this early on in their career, unfortunately, that generally tends to play out. And that's not just in baseball, that's in all sports. When you start getting injured early on, it flows. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, because you hear people say, oh, he's Mr. Glass. Please don't let that be the case, because you're right in what you just said. Everything's there for him to be higher up the order, but we're going to have to see fitness and health before we can say that he's definitely going that. For me at the moment, he's 3-4, but I agree with you. He could move up to be that number 2.
And talking about the rotation, the 1s, the 2s, and then that whoever's going to fill out the rotation in 2026. Coming up next, we're going to project what the starting rotation will be for the Marlins and also take a look at the lineup. Will it stay the same? Will they make additions? That's all coming up right after this. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, that actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Whether you're at work, out with friends, or even just getting ready in the morning, watching a baseball game, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. It's simple. It's a simple addition, just 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. With a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Back here with Dave Hunt, we are talking about the Marlins rotation. We discussed Ryan Weathers and how impressive his return was to the rotation. But now looking ahead to 2026, I think there's still some question marks as to who the 1 through 5 are going to be. And that's due in part to a couple of things. Number one, where does Edward Cabrera fit in? We don't know yet if he's even going to be available. And I just find that like fascinating, because usually at this point we know the diagnosis. Is he going to have Tommy John surgery? Is he not? And the Marlins are kind of keeping that quiet. He's throwing, but they're being very cautious with him. And then you have the depth, right? Robbie Snelling's ready for the major leagues. I think we can all agree on that. Thomas White is one step away. Braxton Garrett, people forget about Braxton Garrett. He's healthy. He's going to be ready by spring training. Max Meyer is another guy. Do you give Max Meyer another opportunity in the rotation? There are a ton of choices. So let's go down the list, Dave, 1 through 5. Start from the top and give me the 5 pitchers that you think will be in the opening day rotation.
Right. I made notes on this earlier because I had to, because of trying to get that 1 to 5 ready in my head. And it's funny that you've just said Braxton Garrett's name. I forgot about him when I first made my list. I'm not joking. I honestly did. I'm going to hold my hands up and admit it. And then I've written in capital letters underneath Braxton question mark. I think we've also got to consider the fact, will Sandy Alcantara still be on the Marlins roster at the start of the 2026 season? If he is, there is absolutely no questions asked that he is number 1 on the rotation for me. I'm sure you agree with me there that as long as we've still got Sandy, he's our ace. He's number 1. For me, almost like a co-ace is Yuri. And for me, he's number 2 on our list. And then there's the question mark, and you've already said it. What's going on with Edward Cabrera? I mean, the 2 weeks ago, I think we all thought the worst. And then I'm hearing he's throwing balls. Is it 2 days ago he started throwing again?
Yeah, I think on Monday or this past week.
So even earlier than I thought. If he's fit and truly fit, and I think it's important to say that, truly fit, because you do see some pitchers try and edge round. For me, Edward slides in at number 3. I mean, where do you sit with that? Do you see him as our number 3 still as well?
I'm right on board with you. Assuming Edward has a clean bill of health and avoids the worst, which I don't know. I'm getting optimistic that he's going to be healthy. Otherwise, I feel like he wouldn't be throwing right now. Then I'm right there with you. Sandy, Yuri, and Edward. And I love that. That's a 3-headed monster.
I mean, that's a lot of MLB teams are going to be looking at the Marlins with that top 3 and going, that is a strong start to your rotation. And then we talk about a strong start. We've just spent a lot of time talking about Ryan Weathers and staying healthy. He's slotting right in there next to me, and I feel really bad putting him down at 4 because for me, he should be a number 3 on someone's rotation. But for me, he's next. And then you've got that whole Max Meyer situation. I felt like at the start of this year, we really started to see Max Meyer coming into his own, a lot of promise again. And then we had another fall away, and then obviously he's been out for quite some time. I think Max is deserving of another go. I still believe there's something there in Max Meyer. And I know that there's a feel around some members of the Marlins community that say, no, let's move on from Max Meyer. For me, no, I really think we need to stick with Max and see what he's got. But then, of course, there's that big question mark and the big capital letters written underneath of Braxton Garrett. And he's got to fit in there somewhere. We've talked about Robbie Snelling. You've mentioned Thomas White. What do we do? Who's our 4 and 5? This is a great dilemma for us to be having, by the way.
It's a great discussion topic because there's so many ways you could go, and I don't think there's one right or wrong answer. It's not black and white. The way I look at it, and I have a slight disagreement on Max Meyer, is I'm done with Max Meyer as a starter. I've seen enough with the sample sizes. I think the sample size is large enough for me to say, look, talented pitcher, inconsistent, still has a really, really good slider, probably the best slider in the Marlins organization. Let's throw him in the bullpen. Let's try to get his fastball improved, maybe change the shape on it. You could go for more of a sinker, which I know he was working on in spring training. And it's disappointing because for the longest time, Dave, I wanted Max to be a starter. I really did. I thought he was a starter out of college. I thought that the beginning of last season, when he had 14 strikeouts against the Reds, that this was his coming out party. And then it just like slowly declined to where he wasn't pitching deep in the games. He was getting hit hard and the walks were up. And I'm at the point now with the depth that the Marlins have, I'm okay with him either moving to the bullpen or possibly getting traded if the price is right. If there's a team out there that looks at Meyer and says, the Marlins might not have been able to make him a starter, but our pitching organization, our coaches can, then maybe you entertain him in trade offers. The fourth spot for me is Braxton Garrett, because he's a veteran. He's more of a pitcher than a thrower. His fastball's 91, 92 miles an hour, got that beautiful looping curveball. And he's really, really good. Like he turned a page in his career. That 2023 season, he was probably the best, most consistent starter on the Marlins pitching staff. Of course, that was overshadowed by Yuri's debut. Sandy had struggled that playoff run, but it was Garrett who was getting the start in the wild card series against the Phillies. I know he missed most of 2024 as an injury-riddled year, obviously missed all of this season, but I think you can slide him into the 4 spot in the rotation and feel pretty good about it. Now, here's where the 5th spot. This is where you go Max Meyer. Do you go Jansen Junk? Do you just buck the narrative completely and give Robbie Snelling the ball out of opening day or on opening day, that the rotation? Because let's be honest here, he could easily be pitching in the Marlins rotation right now. There's no reason for him not to, other than service time manipulation, I think, heading into next season.
That's 100% what it is. And also, I do think that the Marlins really want to see the Jumbo Shrimp win the International League.
Yeah.
I really do think there's an element to that. I really do, because winning breeds winning at the end of the day. But I agree with you. The main reason is service time manipulation. And he has shown consistently in almost every single performance we've seen from him that he is going to be something special. Like you say, he could slide in right now, and he's the sort of guy that you can see in 2 or 3 years' time being an elite level pitcher. And in a way, we need to recognize the fact that he came in as part of a deal that I don't think the fan base was truly happy with at the time. And now we look back at that trade, and what a trade it looks like, hey? Just for Robbie Snelling alone. I agree that the chance is there. And again, I haven't even written Jansen Junk's name down, and that seems so harsh on the guy as well, because like you say, he's been a pleasant surprise, shall we say, this year. We're having this conversation, and this is really great for 2 Marlins fans to be having this sort of conversation, because we could pick 2 rotations nearly,
right? Pretty much. Yeah.
If you include Thomas White in there,
because we're at a loss right now of how can we justify leaving this pitcher out of the rotation? And that's a great problem. But it also, I can't help thinking about this. Peter Bendick sees the same thing, and he looks at the offense. He looks at that farm system, which is improved. Don't get me wrong. But I see a scenario in which the Marlins are trading from their depth, and they're trading a Sandy Alcantara or an Edward Cabrera if he's healthy. And we talked about, they held on to him at the deadline. Maybe they held on to them at the deadline, but they're going to move him in the offseason. I just can't help having that feeling that is a possibility.
It's how we started the conversation, isn't it? The first thing I said was, will Sandy still be with us come March?
Right.
My gut tells me no. And that's why I hope I'm wrong. Again, it's the second time I've said it. I hope I'm wrong. But for me, I think you're seeing Yuri at the top of the rotation. And again, Please tell me if I'm. Please shake my hand when we're all wrong in March and Sandy's there on the mound.
I hope. I can't help feel the same way too. To be honest with you, he's shown such strides of improvement the last 2-3 weeks, and there's teams out there that say, oh, he's got it, he's still got it, he's still that ace. Maybe they didn't get the offer they wanted at the deadline, but for certain they were taking calls and they were having discussions back and forth, and if the price was right, it wasn't a matter of Sandy's untradeable. It was just, we can't trade him right now. So this offseason, Bendix likes to cook in the offseason, the Luzardo, the burger trade in the wee hours of the night. I could see the same thing happening with Sandy. But let's talk about the expectations for this team in 2026. I think it's safe to say that the Marlins outperformed their expectations in 25, but with tangible signs of improvement and a better record than they had last year. What does this mean for next season? Could this team be a playoff team? We're going to break it all down right after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is great to use because it fits however you want to bet. Player props, same-game parlays, money lines, betting on that huge upset for any sport, especially NFL. It's exciting. It makes the game you're watching that much more fun, and it gives you an ability to make some money at it as well. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet, and when you do, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use if that bet wins. I appreciate all the everyday listeners who make Locked On Marlins a part of your daily routine. We're talking about the realistic expectations for the Marlins in 2026. So I have to throw out my personal bias and my optimism for a second. No, I'm just kidding, because I am optimistic about this Marlins team in 2026. I really am. I think the best case scenario, absolute best case scenario, this team sneaks into the wild card. And that's my expectation, is they should be in a position to compete if, and this is a big if, they make the necessary trades, signings, additions, something to improve the current roster as currently constructed. They have to do something. They can't stand pat. If they do, this team could compete.
I couldn't agree more. I think you've just said exactly what I would have said if you'd asked me to hit off the bat. And for me, realistic expectations is a step up from 2025. And that's all I can say. I'm not going to make these lofty predictions. I'm not going to guess game numbers, nothing like that. It's a step up from 2025. Now, if you look at the Marlins that we saw through July into August, we saw a very exciting team that put a lot of wins together. In the latter parts of August, we've seen a team that have taken a lot of losses. And for me, it's taking out those long losing streaks. We're going to lose games with the Marlins. We are not going to go out there and win every single game or win a massive proportion of our games. We are going to lose games. But it's snapping those losing streaks and snapping them quickly. You can take 2 or 3 losses, but you can't take 6, 7. You can't take sweeps by the Rockies. You can't take sweeps by the Nats. And for me, that's what success looks like in 2026. Cutting out the losing snaps and taking that next step. I genuinely think, if you look at the standings right now after the losing run that the Marlins have been on, the wild card spot was there for the taking, and it was, Jeremiah.
And it still is. It still is.
And it still is. It's still mathematically possible. It's not going to happen, but it's still mathematically possible. And it annoys me, because if you look at the form we've had over the last 4 weeks, you bite your fist, because it was there. And would we have gone deep into the playoffs? No. But would it have been great to get that wild card spot and say, we've done it again? Of course it would. And for me, that's what we need to build into in 2026 as an organization, is just taking that next step. And for me, I've said it about 5 times now, snapping the long losing runs.
Yeah.
Get rid of them, get them out of the system, because that's what's hurt the Marlins. It's not the individual 1-2 losses here and there. It's those horrific runs that have happened at multiple points throughout the season, but have really been highlighted in the last 4 weeks for me.
And talking about the wild card, I didn't really realize this until the other day, but the San Francisco Giants are a game and a half out of the wild card. There's a legitimate chance they can make it. And I remember, Dave, right? I think it was right after the Yankees series, when the Marlins were on top of the world. Just about that time, I was on the podcast and I'm saying, look, guys, the Cardinals and Giants sold. They're cooked. This is the Marlins' opportunity. And then everything went downhill after that. But yeah, it was disappointing the way it ended. I think for the expectations, you put it perfectly. You have to take strides forward. And last segment, we didn't even talk about the lineup, but I think this is a perfect time to tie this together. Is the lineup has to take strides forward as well. The people that we have here, the core, I think we can all agree on: Kyle Stowers, Jacob Marcy, and Augustin Ramirez. Those are the big 3. Behind them, we have to see more out of third base. We have to see more out of first base. Who's going to be that third and final outfielder? Is it going to be Griffin Conine? Is it going to be Kemp Alderman halfway through the year? The middle infield, Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez. How are they need to take a step forward? Xavier Edwards can't hit a $196 for 3-4 weeks and call that production. Like, I was talking about him making a run at the batting title, and then his average slipped under 280. That can't happen again. These cold spells. I think the Marlins need to make some additions. And this, for me, is going to be a big, big offseason topic. You've had the last 2 off seasons under Peter Bendix. You signed Tim Anderson. You signed Cal Quantrill. That's it. I guess you can throw Eric Wagaman in there. Whoop-de-doo. But what are you going to do this season? This offseason? Bruce says they have the money and they're going to spend it when the time is right. The time is right now. It's right now. And I want to see some extensions. I want to see some free agent signings, trades, something, because this team can't roll into 2026 the same way. They just can't.
No, and I think you're right. And I think for me, the infield's a major thing. We're looking at what next season's first base is going to look like. And for me, that is the one position that really, really, really needs attention. Third base, there's Connor Norby, and me and you have spoken about Connor Norby at length between ourselves, and a lot of Marlins fans have spoken about Connor Norby at length. Again, we've got to see a sustained level of fitness and a sustained level of performance. I really, really hope there's a player in there in Connor Norby, but I don't know. I just feel like there's more out there, and could Connor Norby be a more valuable trade piece than he is a long-term player for the Marlins? That may be what my gut is telling me right now, and I hope that Norbs proves me wrong. I really, really would love to see him in the Marlins lineup for the next 5 years. But for me, first and third base are the bits we need to concentrate on. You said it yourself, our outfield. It's kind of like the rotation in the way that we've got these lovely problems to have. You just went through some outfielders. You didn't even mention Heriberto Hernandez, who is a great sort of backup outfielder for us to have. You didn't say the name of Dane Myers. I know Dane Myers has off this season, but again, there's a player in Dane Myers. I know there is. Some of the plays he's made defensively this year have been incredible, and that dive where he nearly smashed his face into bits on the wall. You know, you've got to see there are players in there. The outfield, I feel we don't really need to work at that hard, but first and third base, I would be interested to see who we could bring in. I mean, you look at the first baseman that may be available, and you look at what the Marlins will spend. Like you say, Bruce has said the money's there. If it's not, we're looking at the likes of maybe, I don't know, Josh Bell coming back.
Right.
Ty France is out of contract. Is that the sort of player that we're looking at taking in? Or are we going to take that next step and sign someone and splash the cash? That will depend on whether we do take that next step or whether we are looking at those losing runs and having a similar conversation in 12 months' time.
Yeah, and I think first base is the position. If you're going to make a free agent signing, if you're going to make a splash, it's first base. I think a couple 2 shows ago, so not yesterday, but the day before, I talked about Josh Naylor as being a perfect candidate for the Marlins, and it's so crazy that I feel this way because I'm saying I want the Marlins to sign Josh Naylor. It would make sense. He would provide, a huge bat in your lineup. You're taking strides forward. You're showing dedication to the fan base. And then I sit back and think, am I crazy? The Marlins aren't doing that. I can't envision them doing that. So prove me wrong, Bruce. Prove me wrong, please.
I mean, that would be this sort of statement that we're talking about. If I said
Absolutely.
to you, Josh Naylor, you'd be ripping that fantastic cap you're wearing off and throwing it in the air and screaming and
right.
Going, yeah. Whereas if I tell you we're going to sign Josh Bell back, whilst I'm sure, we all love Josh Bell for different reasons, you're not going to have that same oomph. Whereas if I'm saying to you, Josh, so I'm with you 100% on that. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah. You gotta do a move that moves the needle, and this is going to be a fun offseason. I think an offseason with a lot of questions, and I think potentially a lot of action taken from the Marlins front office. They're building something. The future's bright. I firmly believe that, but you have to hit the right buttons. You have to execute. In theory, everything's good, but it's just as quickly as to wreck it all and tear everything down. One bad move here and there. So stay the course. And make good decisions. Easier said than done, of course.
Yeah.
But Dave, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you once again for coming on the show. It's always great talking Marlins with you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Absolutely. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.